All right, welcome to another recap of the Bad Batch. This time we are doing episode 5, Rampage. I'm rejoined by Clem and Robbie Fox. I think the way I phrased it the last time is that life just gets in the way sometimes. Shit happens.
Yeah, I think I was apartment hunting last time. I've since found the apartment, signed the lease, so we're all good.
And today we had to move it back an hour because I was doing preschool shit with my kids. So the two, look at this, we're all spreads out in terms of different walks of life, and or at least in terms of like age ranges here.
Kind of all adult stuff, shit. Huh? For a couple guys talking about a cartoon here.
Don't forget though, a cartoon where like civilians get incinerated and like people get shot to death all the time. It's craziness to this. But what you guys obviously have watched the last episode since between then and now. What do you think of that? Like the introduction of Fennec Shand now to the animated world, because I thought it was awesome. I think she's just what a seamless transition now into the animated world.
I agree. Obviously, like Ming-Na Wen is a voice actor herself and like a legend in that realm. If you don't know, she was the original voice of Mulan, which we talked about in our Mandalorian recaps a lot. If you haven't hit those, go back, check them out on the Lights Camera Barstool YouTube. But yeah, I liked the last episode a lot. I liked the introduction of Fennec. I think maybe we're going to get a tease. Like, I have a theory. I'm going to save it for later. But like, the introduction of her certainly hints at the introduction of maybe someone else, maybe another bounty hunter. But I liked last episode. I loved today's episode. So I'm excited to actually talk about episode 5 because like I thought today's episode was very Mandalorian-esque.
And yeah, I mean, UZM were there, obviously. We felt as soon as, I think after Mando ended, plus all the other things have been, introduced, or they said announced, I guess is the word I would say, in terms of all these future shows and movies and everything else to be coming out. It's going to be like, how are they going to connect the dots, everything? And that was like the first very big dot. It's like, oh, that is going to bring us to a whole bunch of other shit, either in terms of some classic Star Wars stuff or some future Star Wars stuff or stuff that's coming out, and living right now. And Fennec Shand being there, very excited.
Very cool. I loved her action scenes too. Like she was very fluid, and that's something too. Especially, I know Clem, this maybe isn't something that totally applies to you, but for me and Robbie, having seen this show evolve so much, because like in the first few seasons of Clone Wars, like it's a little bit choppy. The animation doesn't look great. It's so fluid now. All the fight scenes, the way everything looks, the shadowing, like the rendering of stuff, it's so great, isn't it? How much it's improved.
The improvement is stunning. Like the fact that. I mean, I was looking on, there was a part in this episode where Hunter's like the face paint or whatever he's got. It was so clear. And the early action scenes in the Clone Wars, like you were talking about, are kind of choppy. And it's like a little bit hard to tell what's going on. It just kind of looks like two like flashes of light going off at all times. Like we don't necessarily see lightsaber battles here yet, but we saw a lot of action in the last episode and this episode that it's not hard to tell what's going on anymore. Like everything is just, and it seems like I don't know, low scraping thing. Like, yeah, I just want to be able to see what's happening. But it's really cool when the animation quality is that good.
Yeah, and they've improved a lot without like losing that core look that keeps Clone Wars, which is great.
And it's even better, I think. Like the Clone Wars got some shit in the beginning for having like the exaggerated features of Count Dooku, of Palpatine, or whatever. And I think the character designs have gotten better over the years.
Yeah, definitely a little less cartoony, a little more realistic.
As someone that was on the outside looking in, and every time I saw Clone Wars, I did see that exaggerated side. I'm like, I'm going to pass on that. That seems like a little much for, and that's, just the 5-cent tour of it all, seeing from a 30,000 foot window. But I'm happy to see that it wasn't just me who felt like that. And I feel like they're definitely transitioning and they're evolving.
Like even the picture we're looking at right now, like all of those characters look phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah. There's again, and they retain that same sort of like blocky isn't the right word, but like sharp sort of features that make the show what it is and Clone Wars what it was, but a ton of improvements along the way, which is great. But yeah, we can get right into the episode. Episode 5. This is titled Rampage, and for good reason, which we'll get into soon. We start off with Tech giving Omega her own little commerce band. This used to be Crosshairs. I don't know if there's a little bit of foreshadowing there, but I think there's a very obvious reason why they did this, and it's because she just keeps getting lost. Omega just is like all over the place.
Yeah, they had to put a GPS on her, and as like a kid, that would be the coolest thing in the world if you were given that. A walkie-talkie is basically the height of technology as a kid. So like having that wristband and everything, and you look at that and you're like, man, they're gonna sell 1 billion of those.
And kind of tying in last time we were talking about how they kind of nailed the parental / children aspect of it all. A kid would 100% be like, "Don't play with it. It's not a toy." And then they play with it. It's like it's a goddamn toy. And
it was cute when she started like playing it and talking to him with it. It was like, all right, Omega's a very endearing character. There, she's very well written.
Yep.
I love Omega. She's great. Next up, we go. They're on their way to Ord Mantell, and they want to meet an informant named Sid that Echo knows from his time in just the Grand Imperial Army and all that. They go to this little basement bar to meet Sid, but they don't know what Sid looks like. They meet this Transdoshan guy who tells them, "Hey, look, Sid's not there. Sid's not here. Don't worry about it. Like you're at the wrong bar. You got to go somewhere else." And somehow, some way, Omega realizes, "Hey, that's Sid." How do you guys think she figured that out?
I mean, some metachlorians up in this bitch.
That was the one was that an arcade they were in that basement? Like what?
They're playing like pinball,
right?
Yeah, there was like some.
That's a pinball machine, is it
there
not?
was definitely, yeah.
Because I saw a couple games. I'm like, I don't know what this is. If it's just one of those like bars where there is just a few games or whatever. But that's the thing. I was like, I have a goddamn Street Fighter 2 at my house. I've had that forever. Every single kid, the minute they see that, they want to play. I'm like, Omega should have hopped up and tried to play one of those games to kind of get into that, like, perfect. Yeah. If you really want to bring that kid to life on the big screen, that's exactly what those goddamn assholes would do. I'm just telling you. But you know what? She's like you said, she is like a Jedi or whatever, some sort of shit.
She's kind of an old soul.
Yeah. This is like 6-year-old Rob Fox. He'd probably be like, it's all right. Like, you've always been an old soul, just like Omega.
I would definitely be too shy.
There was definitely a space pinball thing going on there. I don't think they have, and you probably remember this, Clem, the Elvira pinball machines in this. Oh, you remember? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Those were some good horny memories.
Barnacle Bills down the shore in New Jersey. They've definitely got one in their arcade. I know for a fact they have the Elvira.
That puts a lot of kids like directly into puberty. The first time you saw the Elvira pinball machine, and then when you said space pinball, remember that little like what was that? Yeah, Windows game.
The Microsoft, the Microsoft, whatever you call it, space and pinball or something like that. Yeah.
That was the only game you could play without an internet connection.
Yes, exactly. That
Minesweeper, and I didn't know how to play chess or Minesweeper. Yeah,
Minesweeper, I never figured out. I know it's probably so easy, and someone's probably screaming, "How do you fuck you don't know how to play Minesweeper?" But look, there's just some things like you try it once, and you're like, "This just not."
I even owned pinball games for PlayStation 1. Like me and my brother would go. I remember we bought like Kiss Pinball. And we owned Kiss Pinball for PS1, where it would have, you hit the certain thing and a Kiss song would come on and flames would come up.
That's a great scene from Role Models when Sean William Scott has the the Kiss pinball machine, and he explains how Kiss worked.
Yes, that's a classic.
All right, so then after they find out that this is actually Sid says, "Look, if you guys want to find out who this bounty hunter is, I'll do it. I'll tell you who it is, but you got to do a job for me first." And there's like kind of an interesting line here where she's like, kind of explaining to him, like, look, you guys you're deserters, you're clone deserters, you're mercenaries now. Like, that's your one skill set. Like, you're no longer doing this. You're no longer like regular. You're not civilians. You're not in the army. You're a mercenary. That's going to be essentially your profession now. And you can see them already being resistant to it, but it's going to be something they obviously have to struggle with as they go throughout this rest of the series. And the job that Sid gives them is you got to go get a child named Muchi from these Zygerian slavers on the other side of the planet. So they fly out to this. They called it Old Ord Mantell City, which anytime there's an old city, I'm like, this is going to be cool. Whatever's about to happen in an old city, it's about to do something cool. So they fly on their way there, and we see that Wrecker still has a little bit of head pain. That's good. That's something ominous, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
He's going to turn at some point, and they might have to put him out like Of Mice and Men.
Yeah. He's literally Lenny. That was a great comparison.
Yeah.
Damn! That just cut open an old wound, Bob. Please
listen. I love Wrecker, but I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't love Wrecker before this show. Credit to the Bad Batch for toning him down a little bit, and his inhibitor chip or whatever. They cranked it down from his appearance on the Clone Wars, where he was a bit annoying.
Tell me about the loft catch, George. This guy. So they again. I think this is going to be something we're going to learn about more later. Probably, like you guys are saying, it's going to be like an inhibitor chip malfunction that turns him against the rest of the Bad Batch later on. So they find the Zygerian base on the other side of the planet, and they like scout it out. They tell Omega, "Hey, look, wait inside this time. You're not coming with us. You're going inside." And probably the first smart move that they've made as like her impromptu parents. Because they've just been bringing her everywhere that they go, and like every single time it's not worked out, and they're like, "Okay, you know what? You're going inside this time." Probably the right move, right?
They're getting better, yeah.
Fucking Mando never figured out what to do with Baby Yoda the entire time he had him. He never figured out, not even close. So shout out to these guys for kind of getting it all down.
It only took them like 3 episodes, but they finally got there. So they start like going up and they're starting to attack the base. They get attacked by this creature here, which is called this is like a weird sort of name. It's a Brezak. And Brezaks we've seen before in Clone Wars when they had a Zygerian arc, which we'll talk about more later. But they get attacked by this Brezark, and then in the whole chaos of that, Zygerian slavers manage to capture them, disarm them, and just put them in the town square with the rest of the slaves that they have captured. In the meantime, Omega escapes the ship. Actually, I forgot about this. We go back to Sid, and Sid is talking to Bib Fortuna. And when that was, I don't know if that was supposed to be a reveal, right? But like they're showing this guy speaking Huttese. You see the way and the mannerism in which he speaks, and like I'm sure if you guys did too. But I was immediately like, well, obviously that's Bib Fortuna, right?
And you realize, are we getting a kid for Jabba the fucking Hutt over here? Like the whole mission becomes like completely different. And I love that they let us in on it before they let the Bad Batch in on it, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, Kenjack, are you a closed caption gang?
Yeah, big time.
So I saw the speaking Huttese, and I was like, all right.
Yep.
It's like, I'm on to this. Being in the closed caption gang, you kind of get a little, you fucking crazy sons of bitches. Probably like, oh, that's Huttese speaking just on your own. I would have never.
I knew that
We're
was
fluent,
Huttese for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, we're at this point. We're getting there. We're getting there where we'll be like fluent one day for sure. So he's talking to Sid and just saying like, hey, what's the deal? Where's Muchi? We need to find it, or him or her. I guess they didn't really give.
I think it was
they didn't
her.
gender.
They said it was her later on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, I guess they got to go find her, and like Sid's like, don't worry, I got my best crew on it. Like, you don't know it's your best crew. These guys just walked in your front door, dude. So anyway,
that was very Mandalorian though, when they were like,
yes.
Who was like Dr. Mandible? Like Dr. Mandible knows a guy, his best guy, and then you get there, you're like, what are we talking about? This is not his best guy. No way, it's his best guy.
I fucking hate Dr. I better see Dr. Mandible on this shit, because Dr. Mandible is the most overrated motherfucker in the entire Star Wars universe right now in my mind.
So anyway, Omega escapes the ship. She goes and finds out that all the Bad Batch have been captured, and she kind of thinks like, you know what? I'm gonna have to save these guys again. You know, they got to pay them back, considering they've saved my ass like 20 times throughout this series. She unleashes the young Rancor on them onto the entire Zygerian camp, which you see here, which I didn't realize was a Rancor at first. Like it took me a second to realize what was going on here until like it turned around. And that's because it's a young Rancor, right? It's an adolescent Rancor.
Adolescent, yep.
Yeah, that's what they put it in the I think closed captioning too. Clem is that there's like adolescent Rancor yells or something like that.
I've never seen
a lot of
adolescent
babies, by the way, in Star Wars, Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars kicks off with a baby, like a baby Hutt. We've seen obviously Baby Yoda turns into Grogu. A lot of great babies in the Star Wars universe. I loved this one. I love seeing that little Rancor like waddle around with his tiny legs. Hysterical.
It was so funny. He goes around, starts destroying the camp, and they realize the Bad Batch is that this young Rancor that's the little girl that they're looking for, and it's Muchi. It's not the kid that they camp. That's
great
the
twist.
Muchi. It was a very, very solid twist. And I feel like you could almost feel it coming because the entire time they're like, oh, poor Muchi the entire time. And then finally the guy that is supposed to be like the dad of Muchi's like, this isn't Muchi. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
A+ name too. Muchi was like, oh, that's gonna be the cutest little fucking thing you've ever heard.
Yep.
Little Muchi, like harmless, right? Basically, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, like the little baby Stay Puffs, is a Muchi. It's like, no, that's a fucking Muchi right there.
And I don't know if I don't think I saw this in the Easter eggs, Kenjack, but there was a quick moment where Muchi like grabs this little tower and swings around it, and it looks like a King Kong homage, like so much like the way King Kong swings around the Empire State Building, like almost that classic image of him. Look back, I think that there was maybe one of the animators was like, let's make him look like fucking King Kong for a sec.
No, I didn't see. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that part. But so anyway, it helps all the Bad Batch escape and get their gear. In the whole chaos, and Hunter goes after the lead Zygerian slaver. Goes in a one-on-one, fights him. And this whip weapon is always so cool. They used it again in Clone Wars during the Zygerian arc. And like, I just love seeing this fight because Hunter just like does the wrap up like you see here, and he's like, yeah, I could fucking take it, and just like kicks him in the chest like 300 style and just KOs him. With a kick to the chest.
Hunter's
hard
a
you have to kick
badass. I
someone
really
in the
like
chest.
Hunter.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I didn't realize he had this in him. Right? Are we supposed to know that he had this kind of like fight in him? I had no idea. I respect the shit out of it. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I guess that's why he's like the pseudo leader of the group, if you want to call him that.
Alpha.
Yeah.
I love it. It was alpha shit. They call it the alpha. Go alpha him.
Yeah, exactly. And while this is while after he knocks out the slaver, Muchi and this Brezak Brezak. This is a tough one. I don't like that word. Brezak versus the little baby Rancor Mochi, and they have like what I called a little Kong versus Godzilla sort of like monster fight. And that's where I had seen the Kong comparison, Robbie. But I'm gonna have to go back and watch that the OG Kong. They have the cool little monster fight that's like little miniature thing, like he's biting the Brezak tail and all that, and it runs off into the sunset, I guess, because we don't see it again. And after that, we have to have Wrecker have a little fight for dominance with Muchi, because the tech tells him, like, look, the one way the species responds is if you alpha the shit out of it. They have like this big ass fight, and I love the end of this fight where they're just like trading blows like it's the 12th round of a fight, right?
Yeah, it's like Rocky by the end of it. Yeah.
Did you see that little when the little chain grab too? It kind of brought me back to
yeah, true.
You know, little Leia stuff.
Yeah,
too.
Leia strangling Jabba for sure.
Yep.
And the big slippery wet creatures. That's I think a very good comparison, Clem. So Wrecker alphas it, so it like decides, yeah, you know what, if you can alpha me, I'm gonna work for you guys, I guess. So they go and they get him all the way back to the other side of the planet. They deliver it to Sid, and Bib Fortuna's already there, ready, waiting for pickup. They deliver him. They go inside, and Sid tells them, look, the person after you is Fennec Shan. She's a brand new bounty hunter, but she's like super like well respected already. And this was, I believe, what they called a direct commission. So she doesn't know who hired her, or he doesn't know who hired her, but like he can find out. They're gonna need more time. And basically, he sort of like poaches Hunter and says, look, the one thing you're going to need in order to like fight Fennec Shan, you're going to need money and you're going to need friends. You guys have neither, but the one way you can do it is by working for someone like me, who can be like your sort of like middleman. Yeah, I can be your grief karga baby, more or less, is what you're saying, right?
And I think we're going to see, as the season goes on, increasingly more like morally corrupt missions come in, because this one, they already said like, what, we're going to like free slaves and we're getting money for it? We should just be freeing the slaves. So it's like, I think they're going to, and Sid is already a bit sus, like throw her on the sus list immediately.
Big sus.
So I think, I think as the season goes on, the missions are going to get a little more iffy on the Bad Batch. And who's the bounty hunter that hired Fennec Shand? Could it be? Yeah,
that's the one thing.
Boba Fett himself? Could we see the start of Boba and Fennec's relationship here right before the Book of Boba Fett premieres? We've seen Boba as a young kid in the Clone Wars and everything. And what if he found out about Omega, who would be like his clone sister in a weird way? True. And he's like, I don't want her getting out. So that would also be maybe, you know, Daniel Logan. He's always like, please, I want to come back as Boba. Please, I want to come back as Boba. Maybe Dave Filoni felt bad about them doing a whole Boba Fett thing and him not being involved. And he's like, I'll throw you a fucking Rancor bone, brother. I'll put you in the Bad Batch.
Maybe that's finally it. And
I think Boba Fett will be in the Bad Batch.
The thing is too, like we've seen Boba, like he has already run a crew at this point, and because there was a whole arc in Clone Wars where like he runs his own bounty hunter crew, including I think Bosk was part of it, Heisinger, like a whole bunch of other guys. Like he's capable of doing this despite his age at this point. So I mean that would be an awesome way to kind of fold him in.
And right before Book of Boba Fett, maybe you give us a little more about how him and Fennec met.
Yes, exactly. So just as far as the episode goes, I really liked it. I think one thing that I noted after the last episode was like, I'm kind of starting to come to the realization that this episode or the series is starting to take more of like a Mandalorian tone to it, and that it's getting the same like sort of formula of like take ship to place, do quest, and then leave. And I don't hate that. I did expect this to do something maybe a little bit different, but it's one of those things with Filoni. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I don't necessarily think like he should go and try and do something fucking crazy and make the show bad. So I have been enjoying it a lot. I did like this arc specifically a ton because we got to see, you know, not only just a little bit more characterization for some of the Bad Batch, but we see like where they're going to go as becoming a mercenary. And we got to see that more like Zygerians. Like Zygerians were like such a cool alien race that I fucking hated in Clone Wars. And I love just seeing them get their ass kicked. But Robbie, what did you think of the episode?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I like this episode a lot. As far as the Mandalorian comparisons, exactly right. Like, I agree with you. I think where this will differ is by the end of the Bad Batch, which I don't know if it'll be the end of the season, the end of the series. I don't know if they're doing 2 seasons of this more. I think we're gonna get a huge, like, big battle. Whereas like the Mandalorian is a little more grounded. We just did the stuff on Moff Gideon's ship, right? I think we're gonna get like large scale battles in the Bad Batch because it's way more possible. The budget wise, it's animation is animation.
Yep. What about you, Clem?
So yeah, I'm with you guys on that. I liked it, and I liked it for another reason is they had mentioned it kind of just I like when they reinforce the timeline and the period they are in terms of major moments, in terms of things that happened in the past that we then got to see progress where we jumped in different time spots, especially in like the original trilogy was when they say like the Jedi are all dead. So it's like, oh yeah, Order 66 is a fresh wound at this point. And then I'm a sucker for the talk about, it's not the Republic, it's now the Empire. You see the Empire is seen as this like burgeoning young baby of a government, right? And it's just that kind of shit. I figured out I really like the politics of the Star Wars universe when they're not talking about blockades and tax codes. It's a lot more fun, especially when you know what the Empire becomes and all the different, I'm sure we'll have some rebel talk at some point, maybe not in this series, but in future series and stuff like that. And the word rebel getting thrown around is obviously, it always makes your like ears perk up as a Star Wars fan. So that kind of stuff I kind of dug as well.
It's like when they show us the politics from the ground level of like other people talking about the government. That shit is cool, but when they sit us in for like, all right, here's the fucking union meeting, you're like, wait, what? Like, no, we don't want to see the whole thing. Like, just show us, give us the cliff notes, like you give in this.
Don't give us Star Wars C-SPAN. We do not want to see Star Wars.
Exactly.
Very far away from that. But like even in Mandalorian, when we got to see them celebrate the Death Star exploding and stuff like that was a really cool fucking moment. Again, it's like awesome. Normal people watching that kind of shit go down instead of tax codes and whatnot.
Yeah, the actual minutia of the bureaucracy in Star Wars, not fun, but like seeing like the actual transitional periods in the governments here is awesome because like everything gets thrown into chaos and like in inverse ways too. Like here, things are becoming more controlled and more consolidated because of the Empire. And then Mando is the inverse because like no one knows what the fuck to do because now that controlling force is gone. But it's cool. I mean, we like it's like the more human, I think, ish element of some of these things is like this is what would actually happen in real life in like an actual scenario like this. Let's go into Easter eggs a little bit. First thing, just we can do note some of the cast. You saw Sid voiced by Rhea Perlman. Amazing. I the whole time I'm trying to narrow in on her voice. I'm like, who the fuck is this? I can't fucking narrow it down. I mean, many people know her from Cheers. I know her, like, I think in my heart it is very like affection for her role in Matilda as the mom. She obviously was married to Danny DeVito for a very long time, and I think she was really cool. She was an awesome voice cast. I think Sid was just like an interesting character.
I like Sid as a character. I felt like I knew the voice. I had no idea it was like a real actress until I saw the sheet you put in front of us.
That blew me away. It blew me away as much as when I found out Rhea Perlman and Danny DeVito were married. I knew that already, but like when I found out, I was like, "That's what?"
I didn't know they were married.
You didn't know
they just said it. No.
Yeah, they were married for a long time.
Another part of the closed caption fam that we knew, Sid with a C, which brought me. I think we're, I believe this is like a nerd friendly podcast. Obviously, that brings me Final Fantasy guy Sid. The I don't know if either of you guys were Final Fantasy guys, but there was always like a pilot named Sid, and it was Sid with the CID, which made me feel very comfortable. I always liked Sid having Sid in my party, so I was cool with Sid from the jump. This Sid is a lot more sus than that Sid.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk a little bit more about Sid in a bit. Yeah, your Sid in that case, Final Fantasy Sid. Matthew Wood, he voiced Bib Fortuna in this. Matthew Wood is the lead sound guy at Skywalker Sound, which is like the only sound company that Lucasfilm uses. Like it was founded by George Lucas. He's the sound editor for every basic Star Wars project after basically starting with Episode 3 and everything after the entire sequel trilogy, Rogue One, Solo, Star Wars Story. He's also the voice of General Grievous in the movies and in the shows. Just cool. I like seeing a guy like that just like being more in the mix and shit like that. Like anytime they get a guy that's just part of the old Star Wars universe back in, I'm always down for that. And I'm not sure if you guys had seen, but Taron Killam and Bobby Moynihan had voices in the last episode of Star Wars. They voiced like the vendor and like the dockmaster in the last episode. I thought that was cool because like they're SNL guys, but like they're super huge Star Wars fans. So it's just cool seeing them like in the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the Star Wars family. Everyone always talks about that, and it's cliche, but like I love them bringing the family back. Matthew Wood, legend. I want to see a Predator style movie set in the Star Wars universe with like Grievous killing a group of they wouldn't be rebels at that point. They would be like Republic commandos, but them in a forest. That would be like one of my dream Star Wars movies.
Fucking these voices are throwing me off, man. These Terrence Gilliam. I bought so much Terrence Gilliam. That was my doggy coin back in the day. I love that dude, and I haven't really seen much of him lately. I was wondering, he's married to Robin Schabotsky from How I Met Your Mother. I thought he was going to be much bigger, but he could be in stuff. I don't go to the movies much these days, as you guys can imagine. So I'm happy to hear he's cashing that Lucas, or I guess in this case Disney cash.
Yeah, and again, huge Star Wars fan. I'd just love to see anyone that's like, especially just celebrity and actor wise, people that are super passionate about it, getting a chance to get in it.
I would want to talk to him. He would be a great interview for us.
I agree. Funny dude, great fucking not only just like beginning career arc, but like again, big time nerd, which we love.
And also like the sound editing of the sequel trilogy. Say what you will about any of the movies. One of the highlights of literally every one of those movies. Like I think about immediately the sound going out for the Holdo maneuver, the Emperor's like shooting lightning into the sky in the Rise of Skywalker, like the just like vibration that goes off. Like there's so many moments from those movies where the sound editing actually made a big difference. I mean, the Force actually has a sound in the sequel trilogy where it never had that before. It kind of has like a tension, a grip. Shout out to Matthew Wood, legend.
I always reference this, but in episode 3, the opening where it's just like the war drums and it leads into like the drone in of the starfighters. I always think that's like the coolest maybe opening.
I just watched episode 3 yesterday, so that was like so fresh in my mind. Yeah,
I love that scene so much. The planet they were on, Ord Mantell, it's one it's a mid-rim planet. So not outer rim, not inner rim, but so like basically that's the difference between like frontier and like a big city, I guess if you want to consider that. So it is a planet that is under the control of the Black Sun, I believe at this time. That's a crime syndicate, which we've seen before. Like I believe referenced right in so a Star Wars story. There's a whole arc for it in Clone Wars where like involving planet Mandalore. That's basically all we need to know about that. I thought there's gonna be more involving the planet, like maybe, but nothing crazy. I was trying to find out where
I got to shout out my my beloved Shadows of the Empire, right? That's the Black Sun. And
yes.
I think that's no longer canon, right? Did they wipe that off the books once Disney purchased it?
That version of it is no longer canon, but the Black Sun is now like they brought it back basically and made a canon version of it.
Yeah, because I know Shizor, they can't obviously they're going to probably completely change everything in that timeline, so they can't have all the shit with the.
They're going into that timeline right now in the comics, like for the first time in new canon. Yeah, they're doing War of the Bounty Hunters, and it's all between Empire and Jedi, and like some of the story threads are similar.
Because back in the day, and before all you guys were at Barstool, when I told people I read Shadows, they're like, "Oh my god, a Barstool blogger actually knows about Shadows of the Empire other than just the video game." I was like, "Guys, I read the book. I didn't because I love the fucking 64 game." Ord Mantell, great name for a fucking place too. Like that's a Star Wars name right there, right?
Definitely,
big time. There's a scene, Clem, in Clone Wars where Darth Maul and his go-to guy, what was his actual name? It was Savage Opress, right?
Yeah.
Him and his guy, they go into the Black Sun headquarters. They're having a big conference. It's like basically a mafia sit down, and all the Black Sun guys are sitting there. And Darth Maul has his guy throw the double-sided lightsaber, behead every single guy at the table, including the head dude. And like, remember again, this is the thing. Everyone's like, "Yeah, big time kid show." He fucking beheaded 20 dudes with one spinning lightsaber.
Guys.
It was incredible. And now it's all Black Sun dudes.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I'm telling you, man, you're gonna enjoy that once you start watching. So I was trying to figure out where the name Sid came from, and like you were saying, Clem, like there's one other character named Sid in the Star Wars universe, and that is a Naboo guard whose name was Sid Rushing. And he was named Sid because of a Final Fantasy character named Biggs and Wedge, because they stole the character names of Biggs and Wedge, and put them into Final Fantasy. So Star Wars decided, hey, we're going to steal the name Sid, and they put Sid into Phantom Menace. And
damn it! I didn't see that on the Easter egg list. I stopped at the end of the thing. I was on the new page. I apologize.
No. It's good. I'm glad you primed it up for this moment because and then this all comes back together full circle.
That's
so I don't
crazy.
know. Yeah, I don't know if it was on purpose this time, but like last time, it is documented that it was on purpose in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, and I mean with Dave Filoni, very few things are on accident. I think when it comes to callbacks and references.
Oh man, I would love some good like nerd beef going on here. Star Wars and Final Fantasy, just straight up stealing each other's shit. Oh.
My brother-in-law is so into Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy VII is the big one, right?
Yeah, that was when I was obsessed with it.
Yeah,
2, 3, and 7.
He actually got me into that a few years ago, and we played through like I want to say like half the game. You could get like the remastered one on PS3. It was at the time. Fun ass game for like one that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did.
They remade that into like with modern graphics on PS. You have PS4, Bob?
Yeah.
They have it on PS4 if you ever want to fuck with that. I think it's only like the first quarter of the game or something because it's such a massive game. But that was like an event when that game came out. I remember when I was a kid and I devoted way too many hours of my life to not enough looking back. I should have really went crazy and completed like 100% of it, but it was an absolute A+ again. Sienna, she plays it with me, and she loves it too. So yeah, great game out there. Shout out Final Fantasy. Didn't see that coming.
Being like deja vu because we did a solo episode of LCB, me and Tro Ballins, and we spent 20 minutes talking about Final Fantasy because it's like his favorite game, and just talking about turn-based games and all of that. And RTS stuff or real-time RPG games and all of that crap. But he's Joe Ballins, massive Final Fantasy fan, for those of you wondering.
That doesn't surprise me. That seems up Joel's alley.
Yes. So the Zygerians, the slavers that he were fighting during this, we've seen them before in Clone Wars, like I was mentioning earlier. This Clone Wars arc where Anakin goes to try to stop the rise of the Zygerian slave empire. This was an awesome arc, by the way, and Rob, I'm sure you can attest to that as well, right?
Yeah, this is great, and I like you said, just love the design of them because when you look at them, they kind of just look evil. I don't know if it's the yellow eyes because the Sith, I associate that with them, but like as soon as I look at them, I'm like, susless.
Sus.
Yep. The cat-like features. I don't know what it is, but this is I think a great arc in Clone Wars because like it adds the characterization to Anakin because he hates the slavers. Like the second he hears there's a Zygerian president, he's like slaver scum or something like that. And that's where you see like a lot of dark side characterization for Anakin. And like again, that's one of the great things about Clone Wars is it fills in a lot of these gaps where you're like, we didn't really get to see, Anakin struggle becoming the dark side. He just kind of flipped, and like that show or just Clone Wars in general just really adds so much to those gaps that we don't have. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's Zygerians. The second we saw the Rancor, I think we all thought the same thing, right? It's the Rancor from Jabba's palace, right?
I thought maybe, yeah.
So yeah, I think we were all on the same wavelength there. So I looked it up. Unfortunately, it is not the same Rancor unless this was in some way changed around because it's in the wiki for the fat fucking guy that like took care of the Rancor. The name was Patissa. This Rancor in this episode was obviously named Muchi. So different names, unless again it could be changed around. Maybe Muchi's related to Patissa somehow. I have no clue. I don't know how the breeding mechanics work.
Maybe it's like when you get a dog from a breeder and you change the name. Maybe
now
that it's Jabba's, maybe that it says male Rancor, and we know this one is a female.
You never know. I mean, again, we don't know the breeding mechanics of them.
Sometimes they do change those things. Like I know the beginning of the first episode of The Bad Batch changed some things around from like a Kanan comic, and that was just like they're like, oh, we're changing canon a little bit. So maybe they're gonna change it, and maybe they're like, yeah, that like the one with Luke was Muchi.
Muchi's
Patissa's
mom
with that.
Muchi's Patissa's mom. Just made that up now. We're doing
that works. Yeah.
Right? Timeline exactly. Does.
Maybe that's why the next episode wanted him so bad.
Oh my God, we didn't even realize, but the adolescent was pregnant with a male Rancor, whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. Jabba's he's like a horse collector, basically, except he's like breeding Rancors. Like he's like he's stud farming for Rancors. Yeah, this guy,
Do you think he goes to Rancor races like Bob Baffert with like sunglasses and shit?
Oh my, that's the most fucking Jabba the Hutt thing ever.
Yes,
juicing his Rancors.
Just sitting there.
I also would have felt kind of bad if Luke killed Muchi, right? Like looking back, it's like Luke killed Muchi. It would have felt wrong. So
Muchi, like once we got her under control, was kind of sweet. It didn't seem like that mean Rancor from Jedi.
Yeah, she's basically like a big wrecker, more or less. It's just another wrecker.
She just likes to tussle, like a Billy football.
Yeah, exactly. It's another thing you can note about it. I think that you brought up, Bob, is just like the sort of change in Wrecker has been so great in this series because they brought him down from like a 10 that he was in Clone Wars down to like they really turned down that meter a ton, and it's helped his character a lot. because
In
now
the
I
Clone
really like
Wars,
him.
he was like that, like blackout drunk friend that just keeps like screaming in your face, and you're
Yep.
like, oh my, like, dude, none of us are on your level right now. And now he's like part of the group.
I'm so happy I don't know who this guy is. Like I didn't know him at that point because he's just he's the asshole. And I know him after college. He got the girlfriend. He settled down. He's no longer the hardo he was. Like I was like, we were always cool. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Exactly. But credit to like
Exactly.
this whole show, because I definitely at 5 episodes in like it way more than I thought I would. From the stuff we saw of the Bad Batch and the Clone Wars, I was ready to be done with them. Now I am definitely not. I'm ready to see more.
Me too. Do you guys have any theories about where we're going to go next? I think that the one thing I thought was after the last episode was like, we obviously have to go somewhere to figure out why Fennec Shand is chasing them and who hired her. Now we know at least that, like, I guess almost really not a ton of advancement, but they know now who Fennec Shand is, and they know that like someone has hired her in a direct contract. I don't know where they go from here. I would assume, and this is what I was noting the last time too, was that I assume that in some way the Kaminoans are the ones that put out the bounty specifically for Omega, because to them, if they can make force sensitive clones, that is their immediate lifetime contract from Palpatine. And like, doesn't matter how much Tarkin ever hates them and wants to go to conscripts. For them, if they get force sensitive clones, they're in like fucking Flynn with the Emperor, and they never need to worry about money ever again.
I've got a theory for next week. I think Fennec Shand will be after the Bad Batch, along with Crosshair. Not together. I think Crosshair will also separately be after the Bad Batch. And we're going to get Fennec Shand versus Crosshair sniper battle.
Lucky number 11 type shit. I love that.
Yeah.
Boys, it's Star Wars content. And I think we had enough of the kind of seeds planted between the Boba stuff and the Bib Fortuna stuff. If it's a Star Wars content, where are we going at some point? Tatooine. We're going to Tatooine at some point in the next few episodes because we fucking live there every single Star Wars series. So that's my only. It's I don't know if it'll be next episode or down the road, but you could book a trip to Tatooine at some point in the next. How many episodes are there? Do we know? Like,
I actually don't know that.
So the answer, I feel like every time I look it up, it kind of changes. But I think the most stalwart one I've seen is 16 episodes.
I kind of like not knowing. Like it's kind of like that Walking Dead thing when Kirkman ended the comic and nobody knew it was going to be the final issue until they picked it up that day. Like I kind of like just like one day that it might be the finale. We might tune in and it might be like, whoa.
Yeah, so if you're going to comment or tweet us the actual number of episodes, don't tell us, because actually I prefer now.
Yeah, don't tell us. Now it's a surprise.
I just know we're going to get more than 10, and I just don't know where the number is going to lie. So, again, this series has been awesome. I can't wait for the next episode. We'll be back next Friday talking about where they're going. And I'm just can't fucking wait because this series has just been so entertaining. And as much as I missed that first episode 1 hour feel, this quick like 30 minutes has been like, it flies by. It flies so fast.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. You could all turn down your inhibitor chips now.
Yes. But thanks, Clem. Thanks, Robbie. And again, we'll be back next week.
Or will we? Okay, really shitty finale.
We will be. Come on, good soldiers follow orders.